close to the hotel, close to the Thirsty Turtle, right in that area. Before I start going on with, what I'm supposed to be talking about, I've noticed that during this whole, COVID pandemic, it's brought out both the best and the worst in a lot of people in the community. And, I just urge that everybody, before you judge anyone based on their actions, try to take a step back and put yourself into their shoes. There are a lot of people being extremely, ridiculous in their actions, but, it's hard to know exactly what someone is going through. And with that said, I know that we're all afraid right now, but it's really important to think about the older population, because as you can imagine, they are 10, if not 100 times more afraid of what's going on than you are. So it's important to do as much as you can daily to check in with whether it be family members or individuals in the community that neighbors, anything like that. For example, I was in the grocery store recently and I saw an elder man. I mean, he looked like he was in his late 80s and he had no protection and he was shopping. And, it's absolutely terrifying. And I could see on his face that he was extremely scared. And it's possible that he might not know anybody or have anybody in the community. So I went up to him and I said, look, if you have your phone, here's my number. If you ever need anything, call me. I'll do all your shopping for you. Do the same things like that for, even if it's the grumpy neighbor on the corner. They might be grumpy because they don't have anybody. They don't have anybody looking after them. Also, before I say the next part, I want to make it clear that I think everyone should be safe about this. But let's say you're going for your daily walks. If you know of elderly or family members that are in the community, make sure you let them know when you're going to go for a walk. And you can pass by their house, just you waving at them from their window, similar to what the chamber did with the Easter Bunny, is enough to brighten their day. I talked to my grandparents, I talked to other clients that, just saw the Easter Bunny and they said to me, Jesse, I don't know what to do with my days right now. I don't know how to work technology. I can't FaceTime my family keeps telling me about FaceTime. I have an iPhone, but I don't know how to do it. So, just the little things like helping family members or, waving at them from the window or neighbors, anything like that, letting them know when you're going to walk by will make the biggest difference in people's lives, because unlike us, they might not know how to connect to social media. They might not know how to do these Zoom conference calls and see people that they love. And if you live with someone who's a little bit older, a parent or a grandparent, do whatever you can to connect them with other loved ones, set up Zoom calls with family members, and you do all the technology part and then go from there. Okay, so like Gina said, now I'm gonna get into the more important stuff, which is actually, for the most part, boring and, most people don't like to talk about it because you're talking about planning for death. So I tried to lighten up the mood a little bit, being on Hawaii with a Hawaiian shirt and a wooden bow tie. So hopefully it's not distracting. If it is, let me know and I'll turn it off. Anyway, so the most common question that I get asked is, what kind of estate planning should people have now? And the answer is the same kind of estate planning that they should have at all times. And in general, at the most basic level, that's 3 documents. That's a last will and testament, a healthcare proxy, or you've also heard it called a living will or a healthcare power of attorney, and also a power of attorney, which is more legally known as a general durable power of attorney. Oh, and please, I don't know if there's a lot of people in here. I only see 9, but there might be more. If you have questions, please feel free to, interrupt me. Like Gina said, I prefer that. I hate talking. These things, they're not my favorite. I'm gonna probably already turning extremely red. So yeah, just interrupt me, please. Okay, so to break those down and go through them pretty quickly, I don't want to get into too much detail. A healthcare proxy or living will is a document that appoints an agent who can make medical decisions for you when a doctor and preferably another healthcare professional have determined that you can no longer make healthcare decisions for yourself. It's not a document that takes away your healthcare decision-making authority. So long as you have capacity, an individual, you will be able to make your own healthcare decisions. When you do not have that kind of capacity, you've appointed an agent to do so yourself. And I always recommend you have backups just in case if something happens to your agent. Another document like the healthcare proxy is the general durable power of attorney, more often just referred to as a power of attorney. And that covers financial decisions. Unlike the healthcare proxy, the general durable power of attorney does go into effect the day that you sign it, and the agent that you appoint can step into your shoes and do everything that you can financially for you, so long as it's the general durable power of attorney. There are other types of powers of attorney. I'm not going to get into the specifics. I generally don't recommend them. There are exceptions to that. But the general durable power of attorney, which appoints an agent today, is the most important document to have for your financial type decisions. Like I said, it's unlike the healthcare proxy in that it does give the agent the ability to do things for you today. It doesn't take away your authority. It doesn't take away your ability. It just allows someone to step into your shoes and take those actions for you. The reason that it's extremely important that everybody have those two, especially in this time, is if you don't have those documents and you lose capacity for whatever reason. Let's say I'm walking down the street and I get hit by a car. That's my most famous example that I like to use. And I don't have capacity. If I don't have those documents, there's no one who can access my finances for me unless there's people named on my bank accounts. But let's say that I'm in a house and I'm the only one who owns that house and it needs to be sold, or even if I own it with my spouse can't sell my portion of the house for me. Without a power of attorney, nobody can do it. Nobody can apply for government benefits for me. Nobody could apply for the PPP loan for me. No one could apply for anything else like that for me unless if I have that document in place. The alternative, and this is where it gets really important, especially during this time, is a guardianship. And a guardianship is a court proceeding where you have to have two doctors decide that you don't have capacity. You have a lawyer, the court appoints a lawyer for you, and you go through the court system. Now, it's important, one, because it's expensive, but during this time, the court system is mostly closed, especially in the area of law that I practice. They're still doing things and they're still getting guardianships through, but it's a lot more complicated. It's taking a little bit longer, and it's not cheap. So in times like this, if you needed to make a decision for somebody immediately, it's really difficult to actually be able to have that decision-making authority. So does somebody have a question? I didn't know if I heard something. Okay.
I think you're good.
Yeah. Anyway, so with that said, the next important document, which kind of speaks for itself and probably everybody knows about, is the last will and testament. And that's a document that just sets how your wishes go when you pass away. A lot of people think that their wishes without a will just go to their assets. If you don't have a will, just go to your spouse and then your children. Not 100% true, depending on the circumstance. For example, let's say you're married and you don't have children and your parents are still alive and you don't have a will. Whatever assets you own jointly with your spouse will go to your spouse. Any bank accounts or assets that you don't have that don't name your spouse as a beneficiary, actually there is a calculation under the New Jersey statutes, and I won't go too much into it, but your parents would actually get a portion of your estate and your spouse would get a portion. Same if you have kids from outside of the marriage, that would also make it so that your spouse doesn't get everything. So it's important to think about having a will, but other important reasons to have it: if you have children, appointing a guardian for them if something happens to you during this pandemic, somebody who can take care of your children, appointing a trustee for your children so that if they inherit assets, the money isn't tied up with the court until they turn 18. You want to make sure that somebody actually has the control of those assets, and just making, generally just making sure that your wishes are followed. And another document that I think is important for business owners, because I know we have a lot of business owners, especially during a time like this, is not specifically a document, it's a group of documents, but a business succession plan. And I do a lot of that because let's say that something happened to me today. I'm the sole owner of my law firm. If I don't have somebody in place and I don't have capacity, there's nobody who can actually continue to run my firm. No one who can go into things, and that works for every business, no one who can make sure your business continues to run, or no one who can sell your business if that's the best interest of you right away. You know, an example that I have is I know somebody who owned a dentist practice and he lost capacity, and he clearly was never going to be doing dentistry again, and he didn't have any other dentists there, and he didn't have a business succession plan. By the time they got somebody appointed to sell that dentist office and practice, it was worth nothing because all of the patients left. So it is important to have those kinds of things in place. As a general update to the law today, a lot of people say, well, Jesse, all these documents require notaries and witnesses, and that's 100% true. How am I, you know, if you're not allowed to come into my office, how can I sign these documents? So on the 14th of April, actually, New Jersey signed into law AB 3903, which allows remote notarization now. And there are requirements in order to make it so that it's valid. You know, you need to properly be able to identify that individual. You need to do a visual recording and I think keep it for 10 years. You need to properly identify that they are signing the document that you believe they're signing. And there's some other requirements and things like that, but I am now able to do remote notarization with clients where they don't actually have to, come in and sign. New Jersey was one of the states that didn't have this law. A lot of states already had this law in place, and it took a while to get it in place, but we now are able to notarize documents, you know, from a distance and from video chat. Now that doesn't work for everybody because not everybody knows how to do that, and I'm not going to argue over whether this should be done or not, but I'll tell you what some law firms are doing in this time period, because these documents are extremely important, is they're doing car signings. And what I mean by that is they're having clients drive up, kind of like you drive up to pick your food up from, you know, whatever restaurant you're ordering from. You drive up, and then the attorney and the witness comes outside, keeps proper distance, hands the documents through the car, you know, and practices as much distancing as possible with the understanding that these documents are extremely important. That's an option, but the preferred option is just remote notarization now. You can now get all these documents in place. All right, so I haven't seen any questions about estate planning, and we'll come back to it at the end for any Q&A. But I'm gonna now start to move on to talking about caring for elderly, you know, whether it's parents or grandparents or neighbors or whatever, specifically elderly who have coronavirus now or have been diagnosed. What are your options? So I'm going to start with caring at home. The biggest concern in general with having parents at home is you have to stop working to be able to care for them. You know, some parents do need 24/7 care, and this is a huge issue that I think that our state and our federal government needs to do more on. You know, allowing people to take time off to provide family caregiving. But New Jersey is one of the, has one of the most extensive programs. But with that said, with the CARES Act and the Family First Act, the Unpaid Family and Medical Leave Act was extended to include caregiving for individuals and family members who have coronavirus, who have COVID. I'm not going to get into the details of how much that actually covers, because federally, I don't really believe it's that much coverage, to be quite honest. But with that said, to be quite, you know, if you live in New Jersey, you probably aren't even going to go through the Unpaid Family and Medical Leave Act, because like I said, New Jersey has one of the most extensive sick leave and earned pay leave laws on the books. And I'm going to share a screen with you if I can figure out how to do that. That's not. Just one second. So these are scenarios that kind of come up, you know, where you can kind of look at it and say, what am I looking to do? So for example, you have right here, like the New Jersey Earned Sick Leave Act, you know, workers caring for family members who are diagnosed in isolation or quarantine. You know, so this applies for caring for an elder who has COVID, and it's pretty extensive. And that's where you would actually probably apply to get some kind of benefit. It will allow you to leave your job full time and not be afraid of losing your job. So it's important. I'll have these resources for anyone who's interested. Like I said, I'm not going to go too far into it, But the important thing to know is that there are resources available to you if you are caregiving for an individual at home. And there are also further resources that I have that are specifically meant for individuals that need assistance with caregiving at home. Types of organizations that provide all kinds of assistance. And I'm not going to go through them all. And to be quite honest, full disclosure, I don't know how active they are right now, and I don't know a lot of their policies. These are programs that I would give to an individual who's generally caregiving for an elder. I don't know how I don't know what steps back they've taken right now, but there are options, and that's really more what I'm trying to get across, is that if you are caregiving for somebody, or if you have a parent at home who needs caregiving and you can't get an aide to come in for whatever reason, or you don't want an aide to come in given the current state of the world to bring in outside germs or whatever, there are things that you can do. They might not be perfect. It actually might be best if you can get your employer to furlough you or fire you to get unemployment. You'll probably get better benefits and pay that way. But there are other options if your employer won't do that. Moving on, now where I get a lot of my questions is about, well, what about my family members who are already in nursing homes and assisted living facilities? Because this is terrifying. It's a terrifying time. I have a lot of people who are nervous, and clients who are nervous because they never wanted to go to a nursing home, but they had to. And they thought, oh, my children are dropping me in this nursing home to just leave me here and never visit me. And of course, during this time, no one can visit them. So it's like all of their beliefs and fears are coming to fruition. It's uncharted waters. When it comes to people like that, you just have to do as much as you can to make them know that they're loved, which is tough when a lot of them don't actually have capacity to remember you or anything like that. But you just have to do as much as you can. There are a lot of people in those nursing homes and assisted living homes who will help you. And by that, I mean they will FaceTime you personally. If your parent doesn't know how to FaceTime, they will bring those phones into the rooms. Some people are lucky and have aides that already are residing with their parents 24/7. Some people aren't, and it doesn't hurt to call the nursing home or assisted living or independent living, whatever, and see if they'll have somebody come in so that you can have a conversation with your parent who doesn't know how to use technology, because it's the little things that really matter. So a lot of us are afraid about what are the COVID rates in nursing homes. And to be quite honest, I imagine that you won't be surprised when I tell you that they are not being reported accurately. Without naming names of places and facilities, I know people who work at them, and they tell me that the rates, they're not telling family members, they're not telling loved ones, they're not telling people who are family members of individuals in facilities that have, high rates of COVID. You've seen that, recently, especially, I forget the nursing home in New Jersey, but it was bad. There was another nursing home, I think in Seattle or something. All over the country, you're having this issue. They're not reporting the rates. What I can tell you is that the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services has just cracked down on this, and they've ordered nursing home administrators to start reporting the rates first to them, but also to family members and loved ones. I don't know how long it's going to take for you to actually see these numbers, but I can tell you that my mom does work at a rehab facility, which is like a nursing home, and they have nursing home beds. And the day that this order came down, she told her that her boss told her they have to report the statistics. So it is actually happening. I just don't know how long it's going to take for it to be available. And I do know the Center for Medicare and Medicaid, they will make these statistics available, but they haven't given a timeline. All you can do when you have a loved one there is learn the procedures that they have in place, find out what they are, and then kind of make a decision. And to be quite honest, you don't have that many possibilities. You can bring the family member home, which is a risk among itself. I'm not saying that I advise that, but some people have chosen to do that. At this point, it's likely if you bring a family member home, they're probably a carrier or a potential carrier of COVID and bringing it home. And honestly, sometimes bringing them home is worse than leaving them in the facility or nursing home that they're at, because I know a lot of great facilities and nursing homes that have the room and are isolating.
Mm-hmm.
One good thing about that's come with nursing homes because of this is they're not filling beds as quickly. So they have a lot more empty room. So they're able to do more isolation. And with that isolation, they're able to keep everybody else safe. But then again, you know, if you have any fears, if you think that a nursing home is not doing what they're supposed to do, report them to the Department of Health, specifically a local Department of Health, you know, in the county or the town, or you can call the Department of Health hotline, which I can make available for you. I can't guarantee you're going to get much, you know, to be quite honest. It's the unfortunate truth of where we are right now, but you know, it's worth a shot. So I see a question. If you have someone in a nursing home and has to stay for a certain amount of time to qualify for Medicare, can you now temporarily take them out so they're not exposed to this, but not lose your qualification time? So my understanding of that, at least for things like rehab and such, is they've actually, I think they're dropping those requirements, but to be quite honest, I'm going to have to look into that for you. I do know that, you know, for example, people who need to go to a rehab facility, they generally have to go to have a hospital stay for a certain amount of days before they can actually qualify. They've dropped that hospital stay requirement. To be quite honest, I'm not 100% sure of the answer to your question right now, and I'll have to look it up and I'll get back to you on that one.
Hey, Jesse, you mentioned something that brought up a question to myself. Are nursing homes admitting new patients now?
Yeah, so that's great because that's where I was gonna head next. So the next thing is, what if you have an individual who really needs that next level of care and you can't provide it at home? What can you do? Nursing homes are admitting right now. Assisted living facilities are admitting right now. Rehab facilities are admitting right now. And in fact, the part of, I forget which law it was, but one of the laws made it so that non-nursing homes can even be certified temporarily as nursing homes, or a list of other facilities that are qualified to be nursing homes. They are admitting. There is a different kind of process in place. What I would say is, if you want to place somebody, you have to really, you know, think about the pros and cons, you know, because you are putting them in a potential, you know, hot zone. But then again, not everybody has this option. So what I would advise is, there are a lot of businesses that specifically help with placing parents. You know, a lot of elder law firms do this as well. I don't like to do it myself because I don't think I am the right qualified person to do it. I think you should have a team that involves social workers and people who work with these nursing homes and assisted living homes every day. I have a few names of people that I work with. I'm not going to list them now because I don't want to make it seem like I'm playing any kind of favoritism. But if anybody has, you know, questions about placing and things like that and wants a referral, let me know. But yeah, they are placing, but it is complicated. You know, it's more complicated than it was before. Another thing that nursing homes are doing to make it safer is they have waived the requirement. There used to be notice requirements and more stringent requirements for transportation of individuals within nursing homes. They're now allowing them to move them around. And what I mean by that is from room to room. I know that might not make people happy that their parents are being moved from room to room, but sometimes it's done literally to make them, well, it's always done to make them safer, you know, and they've waived the kind of red tape that they had to go through to move people around. And this is only done for parents' good. You know, so the next question I usually get is, well, can I sue the nursing home? Can I sue this place? Can I sue that place for the care that they're providing? And what can I do about it? The answer is maybe. And I know that's the least favorite answer that I give clients on a lot of questions they ask me, is maybe. And the reason for that is, New Jersey passed a bill recently that exempts healthcare providers who are providing services related to COVID-19. So lawsuits are getting more difficult, but there are exceptions to this, like there are exceptions to other laws. And some of the exceptions are grossful negligence or willful misconduct. So I do know a couple of firms who are handling that. If anyone is in that, you know, that realm, I hope not. I hope nobody has to call me with that question, but there are firms that are handling that, and there are things that you can do. It's just not, you know, not great. That's pretty much most of what I have. So I think it's a good time if people have individual questions. I promise that I don't know all the laws, to be quite honest. It's updating every day, but if I don't know it, I will I will research it for you and get back to you.
Hey, Jesse, one that was privately chatted to me is about cleaning and nursing homes. Are they under strict guidelines to do cleaning at certain times, or is it just basically up to the nursing home?
So I don't, they haven't, you know, to my knowledge, they haven't given them strict guidelines of what to do and when to do it. You know, it's more of like you need to do these kind of services. You need to make sure they're doing these kind of services. And the reason is there's really, you know, there's not much of a way for people to check into that, you know, unfortunately. During this time, you know, there are some random visits. The state is popping in to make sure, but they just, you know, they're just generally just saying that they have to, you know, do everything they can to contain this, you know, and they're giving them ideas. But if there are guidelines, they're not made public. You know, I imagine that the Center for Medicare and Medicaid have been giving them some kind of stringent guidelines, and the state has probably been saying the same as well. But at least in law, you know, there's no law that, from what I know, that's actually breaking this down.
Okay. And another question that came in is in regards to the documents that you spoke of earlier. The question just kind of reads like, can I just go online and create these types of documents? Do they work the same way, like a will or a power of attorney?
Sure. Yeah, I get that question a lot. And obviously, you know, before I answer it, I'm incentivized to tell you no, because if you go online, you don't go to me. But the real answer to that is, once again, it's a maybe. So I have seen, you know, I'm not going to call out any sites, but I've seen a lot of these kind of documents come in through the door, and some of them, I will tell you, they're beautiful. They're done perfectly. They meet our laws. Some of them don't. And that's the problem, is if you have a document that doesn't meet our laws or isn't executed properly because they don't give you the right instructions, it's the same as not having a document at all. So yes, maybe no. You know, I think that you should at the very least have an attorney review your documents. If you want to go online and you want to save costs, you know, maybe get it done and then try to hire an attorney to say, look, I'll pay you your hourly fee to just review this. You know, I don't generally do that. But in times like this, I'll probably go out of my way to help everybody.
Right.
But I don't recommend it. They're not cookie cutter type things where, you know, meeting with an attorney brings you down other paths. You know, I have clients who come in who ask me questions about estate planning, and then I look at their estate planning and I find things that they weren't thinking about. You know, for example, they weren't thinking about the fact that they had minor children, or they weren't thinking about the fact that they're getting a little bit older now, and they want to, and it's a good idea to start shielding your money from the future cost of care, because it's extremely important, you know, and it's extremely expensive these days to pay for care. And to be quite honest, if you don't start to take the right steps, you may be the person who's forced to go to a nursing home, as opposed to the person who takes the right steps, who can get that, you know, get that care from home and still have a pool of money sitting somewhere else. And yes, Bill, online documents still do need to be notarized anyway. So you're going to have to, and witnessed, you know, everything needs to be notarized and witnessed. You know, so you're going to have to do that as well.
All right. You have a question here from John. Do you see it?
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Currently, New Jersey has no estate tax, that question?
Yes.
Do you think with the current economic crisis, New Jersey will bring it back? So first and foremost, yeah, John's right. We don't have an estate tax. It is important to know that we do have an inheritance tax. And so while New Jersey repealed its estate tax as part of the gas tax, that was what, 2014, I don't remember what year it was. We still have the federal estate tax, which means if you have over, you know, 11.49 million or whatever that number is, you still have to pay estate taxes, which doesn't apply to most people. But we do have an inheritance tax, which applies to if you leave assets to anyone that's other than a direct line, meaning parents, spouse, children, grandchildren, you have to pay varying tax rates between 11 and 16%. But to answer John's question, do I think New Jersey will bring it back? So a lot, you know, this is a topic of conversation actually that happens often at elder law conventions, and you know, accountants have this conversation, financial advisors have this conversation, and there's a lot of different opinions. Myself and a few others are in the point of view that we actually do think it's going to be brought back, because there has been a big loss in revenue from the gas tax. You know, they tried to repeal the estate tax and raise the gas tax to kind of counteract the loss, but there's been huge losses. And I can imagine right now where no one's buying gas, there's literally extreme losses. I do think they'll bring it back in the future. I think it might be at a level like 2 million, as opposed to what was $675,000 before, which was a crazy low number given the fact that, look at Cranford, most of our houses are over 675,000 or somewhere near that. Not most, I mean, but a good amount of them. So yeah, I think that they will bring it back, but don't quote me on that.
I'm going to unmute everyone, so if you have any questions, you can ask. But in the meantime, Jesse, are there any changes with the Medicaid laws based upon this whole virus?
There are changes with regards to Medicaid appeals. I'm not going to get into that specifically because people don't really care about appeals unless they have to appeal. As for changes with the Medicaid laws, not really. They're just slower at processing everything, to be quite honest. You still have the same requirements, same legal requirements. It's just taking longer for them to do anything with it.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah, so sorry, there is a change that is important if you're on Medicaid. They are delaying taking you off Medicaid. There's always recertification periods. They are making it harder for you to lose your current Medicaid. That is the one thing that is a change. If you're on Medicaid now, they are making it a lot harder for you to lose. That is the only I can think.
So what is the recertification process?
Well, so generally they just send you a form like every year. You should probably be getting some kind of recertification, and they say they check into it, but they usually don't. But they might look into your assets. They might ask you for a bank statement. It just varies by county, to be quite honest. But it's not, they just should be generally sending you a yearly follow-up just to ensure that you still meet Medicaid qualifications.
Oh, God, I didn't know that. Okay. So everyone is unmuted. Does anyone have any other questions for Jesse? All right, Jesse, anything that you'd like to close with?
No, that's pretty much it. I like to stress again what I stressed in the beginning for people who weren't here. It is an important time. I know we are all terrified, but elders are a lot more scared than we are. Maybe 10, 100 times more. So do whatever you can to go out of your way to help them, whether it's shopping for family members, neighbors, everything like that. If you're going for walks, first and foremost, be safe, isolate yourself the right way, follow the proper procedures. But, if you're going for walks and that there are elders on your route or grandparents or family members on your route, let them know when you're going to pass, wave hi, it will change their day. Do whatever you can. I know it's a scary time for ourselves, but do whatever you can to help them, because I promise you their lives are a lot worse right now. They're a lot more scared and they're a lot more bored than any of us are, because we have Netflix, we have, Disney, and all that.
Great. Thank you so much, Jesse. And Jesse, if you could send me that graph that you put up, I'll send it out to everyone who was on the call and those who registered but couldn't join the call. And I'll also forward everyone Jesse's information. So if there's certain personal questions that you'd like to reach out to him with, you can do so. And tomorrow we have John Apisa, who's also on our call right now, talking about the tax law changes and how it affects you as an individual during this whole COVID-19. So any questions before we close out?
Yeah, I just had one real quick, Jesse. Through our website, we get a lot of questions still about senior housing. People still trying to get into senior housing now. Are they still even doing that right now?
Yeah. So my understanding, I mean, it's going to be, that's going to be based on this specific senior housing. My understanding is it is happening.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's happening everywhere, to be quite honest. I know it's, everything's more complicated, but my understanding is it is still happening. Senior housing is still happening.
Okay, yeah, because we get questions every day.
Yeah, as Bill said, we get a lot of questions about the Cranford senior housing and what's available, how to get in.
I don't know about that. Reach out to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I throw one more thing out there that's completely unrelated?
Absolutely.
So for some people who don't know, I'm a member of the Cranford Chamber Board, and we sit there a lot trying to figure out what we can do for each of you. But I think something that, we can all start to think about is what can we each do for the Chamber of Commerce as well? I know there are a lot of people in the chamber who have a lot of ideas, but also a lot of important things during this time that they could present on or even provide information on. I'm not going to blow up Gina's spot, but if you have any ideas, if you have any questions, you can send me emails, or if Gina's willing to take them, I'd rather them go to her instead of me.
Yep.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and even examples of questions like the PPP loan. I know it's been complicated. I tried to apply for it myself. But in recently calling individuals of the Cranford Chamber of Commerce, I've learned of additional resources, people who might be able to help that do the PPP loan, who don't actually need you to have banked at their bank. Before I give any names, I need to talk to this individual and make sure that he allows me to give his name. And I also don't want to play favoritism. Again, if there's anybody else who can help others with a PPP loan or other types of things like that, let us know, because then we can forward your information. Because that's the question that I'm getting the most. I know it's unrelated to what I'm talking about, but everyone keeps asking me about that, and things like that. So, if anybody has resources that can help me in my business for clients who call me, about things like senior housing and, placement in nursing homes during this time, that would be great as well if you could reach out to me.
Great, Jesse, awesome point. And that's how Jesse's presentation actually came to be. It came up on a prior webinar that we were having, and people were asking elder law estate planning questions. So that's why we had Jesse on. So as Jesse said, if you have anything that you would like us to present on, please send it to me. It's gina@cranford.com. Just shoot me a quick message, and we'll get all of Jesse's information out to you as well. So thanks all. Have a great day. And thanks again, Jesse. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.